We're not going to get a chance to talk about a lot of the details on this, though it's just a great example of reinforcement learning applied to a difficult problem and clever engineering tricks. The one thing that's worth noting is that in addition to using deep nets, which are kind of in vogue at the moment, they also did a couple other things in changing the way that training happened that I think were really, really important for getting the kinds of results that they got. And so it wasn't just a matter of, hey, let's just use deep nets. It was like deep nets plus really careful training so that you don't get these kinds of catastrophic death spirals. Like, again, what my students and I have tended to see when we try this stuff. So this kind of does it work successes story is not really the end of the story in the sense that, well, so we assigned some reading. I think these were reading associated with this current lesson. 3 papers, Tesaro, Boyan and Moore, and Sutton, which kind of tell an interesting story, which is, I think, a really nice summary of what the state of the art is here. So Jerry Tesaro got TD Gammon to work really well. So that's a 3-layer backprop net for learning to choose moves in backgammon. And it worked great. So everybody thought, hey, everything works great. So then Boyan and Moore wrote a paper where they showed that there's some very simple examples where things ought to work well, but they need not. They can actually work extremely poorly. Using this general approach of substituting in a function approximator for a Q function can lead to terrible results. So it need not work. Then Sutton had a reply to that where he published a paper that said, yeah, but you can do it if you do it right. So he actually replicated the same results that Boyan and Moore showed not working and showed that if you change the way that training happens, you could get those particular things to work. But this really is just, the argument is it need not work, but it need not work, which is not really a very strong kind of guarantee. It's not like it has to work or it has to not work. So this is kind of where we are now in terms of our understanding.
So what's the Pollock thing at the bottom?
Pollock. Oh, sorry. So yes, I just wanted to point out that why did backgammon work so well? It might not have just been the fact that it was reinforcement learning. It might have been, well, backgammon's kind of a good thing to learn this way. So Jordan Pollock had a paper where he showed that genetic algorithms can also do particularly well in backgammon in particular. So it might not have been that Jerry Tesaro discovered that TD is really great. He might have discovered that backgammon is really great as a test bed for TD.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. In fact, the argument that Jordan made was that because it's so random, it forces you to do all kinds of exploration and keeps you from falling into certain traps that made generalization powerful. And in fact, if we compare it to Isbell's master's thesis work on something that you thought was simpler, like tic-tac-toe, it actually doesn't do terribly well on tic-tac-toe, and that's because it's so deterministic. There's huge chunks of the state space you kind of never see, even when you're trying to do this generalization.
Yeah, okay, so I would summarize that by saying that nearby states in tic-tac-toe don't necessarily have nearby values, right? You just move one X to a different place on the grid, and the whole gameplay is very, very different. Backgammon, because it has such a tremendously influential random component, if you move one piece, it can change things, but it's not going to change things, night and day. It's going to change things gradually. And so that kind of gradualness means that function approximation is probably going to, well, it could at least work out well.
Maybe. It's certainly a good argument.